Well, the question was essentially is the cost of the settlement yesterday and the cost that the states will have to incur when they put together their watershed implementation plans, is that additional? And they, excuse me, they all actually fit together. I mean, I would assume that much of what the states are going to do is look at reductions that they're already going to get, say, for stormwater rules they put into place, or agricultural rules and best practices that have really been implemented around the watershed in some places quite well. And then they're going to look at the fact that they know that the USDA is targeting money in this watershed for things like conservation and stewardship programs, package that all together, hopefully look at targeting federal dollars from the SRF and put together a plan that's implementable and doable. There will be the potential for additional regulatory activities, and whenever we do regulations, we're going to do a cost estimate associated with those regulations as well. So that it is hard to sort of take a pie and come up with one number and say this is what everybody's going to throw at the problem, because like any government, we're all trying to get multiple returns on those dollars that are being spent or lent out.
Last question, everyone. Oh, sorry.
Just one question that's often lost in these discussions about costs, and that is as these resources are invested, it's going to create new economic opportunity. It's going to create income opportunities. New companies are going to be formed to do a lot of this work, or existing companies are going to be able to expand their workforce. So there is an economic benefit that will accrue. And obviously, as you clean up the bay, there are going to be tourism, recreational opportunities that will be expanded, which is part of the Great American Outdoors effort to try to reconnect people with the outdoors. So there are costs, obviously, but there are also going to be benefits in the form of additional revenues that communities, local communities, and state governments will see. So it's not necessarily a complete cost aspect to this. I think we sometimes forget that there's economic opportunity generated from this.
Hi, Jeff Day with BNA. As I understand it, the strategy calls for getting all the water bodies to an average of 60% of the 100% by 2025. Could you describe what that means, and do you expect it to reach 100% at some point?
I'm going to let Chuck talk about the quantitative. One thing that the strategy envisioned was making good on the president's promise that any mechanism that needs to be in place to restore the bay would be in place, up and running by 2025. And that's the number that I use when I speak to leadership, when I speak to managers, when I talk to people about envisioning the bay. Everything needs to be running on the ground, up and running, because we saw just this last year, just a few weeks ago, months ago, with the announcement on the blue crabs, that Mother Nature will multiply our efforts in ways we may not be able to foresee. Sometimes we get a little bit of good luck. Sometimes we get a real magnification of good things that can happen. So we saw that with the blue crab. I believe we're going to be able to see exponential increases. Chuck, is there anything else we need to say on that? All right. Thanks, everybody.